What is up, everybody? It is Dr. Vibe. As always, like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I am host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show and many other different shows on different platforms, but this is my home, the Dr. Vibe show. I'd like to say thank you very much for everyone. There are people who have already signed in. Yolanda, thank you very much. Durham Skyrider, always a pleasure and an honor. But the honor and pleasure tonight is for Prince's wife, purple. Purple lipstick, purple headphones, and you know her as Tachi. She's rocking the house. Wow, thanks everyone for jumping on. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Big time. That's good. So Tashi and I are going to co-host a discussion tonight, Exploring Blackness in Media. And you know, folks, I host conversations. So when you are ready to jump in, come on in. Provide commentary. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining in. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Sandy. Wow, all of you just jumping right in. I really appreciate it. So, Tachi, just give a little background about yourself. We're going to get right into the convo.
I shall. Hey, can you hear me properly?
Bang on.
Fantastic. So my name is Tachi. In my other life, I'm Dr. Chetachi Egwu. I'm a media professor, a filmmaker, an overall media maker, and I host a live streaming show because Dr. Vibe is going to get on me for not talking about this. I host a show on Periscope, Meerkat, and Facebook Live called Mediascope, where I talk all about media, tech, and pop culture. So media, tech, and pop culture are my passions.
Absolutely. And we might as well put it out at the front end. What are you doing next Monday?
Yes, so next Monday, and you're actually a part of this, Dr. Vibe, I am moderating a session, and actually Yolanda is going to be in it as well. And so I'm moderating a session that looks at people of color and people with disabilities and their use of social media, but in particular live streaming. And this is actually happening at NAB/BEA. And if you're not familiar with that, NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters. BEA is the Broadcast Education Association. So I'm the chair, I am the paper chair for the Multicultural Studies Division, and we're hosting that conversation. So not only is it going to be a conversation there live in Las Vegas, it will be on Blab. So you and Yolanda and a bunch of other people will be joining via Blab, and we have the audience in Vegas as well.
Well, you know what? I have to say thank you so much for, and I'm saying being the tip of the spear in regards to being a member of this organization, and representing and also inviting many of us to add positive value and make you look like a shining star, which you already are. But it's just going to be outstanding. Oh, it's true. And want to shout out to Digital Biz Dude. He's saying, I hope this isn't one of Dr. Vi's 10-hour blabs because you know how it can get up here. Well, you know what, Digital Biz Dude, I learned something very important a long time ago. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. So there's other conversations that we've been doing, Part 1, Part 2s, and continuing. So just loving it, having a lot of fun. And I am pushing, encouraging you, and drawing you out in the seats tonight to come on and contribute to this conversation. So Tachi,
yes,
exploring blackness in media. Wow,
that is
yeah, that's a part 3, right?
That's a part 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
It's an ongoing conversation.
So
where do we start?
Well, where do we start? I think a lot of blackness in media has been centered around images, and the images have, oh, thank you, Digital Biz Dude. I'm sorry, I had to acknowledge his comments. So I think a lot of our conversation has really been based around images in the media, images of blackness and black people in the media. That's also, and here's the thing, we're so US centric, I would say, or America centric, because when we talk about that, we really are talking from the perspective or looking at African Americans in the media. And one of my things is also to include the whole spectrum of blackness. So that includes Afro-Europeans, that includes Afro-Canadians like yourself, Dr. Vibe, that includes Africans from the continent, that includes, wherever Black people and people of color exist, that's what I'm talking about. And I think we leave all that other side of Blackness out of the conversation when we're talking about media images. So that's one thing, but it's also not just images, but looking at the people that are the decision makers about who gets on and what gets on, news anchors, reporters. And so it's also really investigating the talent end of that and the production end and the distribution end of it, which we have scant presence in. So that's really what we're talking about when we're looking at this whole concept of Blackness in the media.
Now you are the educated one when it comes to this conversation.
So
I'm going to ask now, how much, if any, can you give a historical perspective on this? And what I'm saying is, historically, compare this situation historically, however far back you can go, to what we are experiencing today.
Even that is so multifaceted. So when we talk about historically, our presence in the media, of course, we all know that our presence in terms of images in the media were, for the most part, stereotypical images, the images that people felt and thought we were, not necessarily images that we created ourselves or stories that we created ourselves. They were what other people thought we were. And it was really, we were involved mainly in front of the camera as quote unquote talent, if you want to say that. So we're talking about, we can even go, except, let me give a disclaimer. So there were those that were trying to challenge the dominant paradigm even as early as the teens and the 1920s. So if you're talking about silent film, we're talking about the great Oscar Micheaux, who really made differences in terms of telling Black stories and putting them on film. I mean, there really were not any other stories, any other filmmakers, I should say, that Black filmmakers that were putting things out there that people really could see. And even then, that was scant. So we're going back to Oscar Micheaux in terms of that. And so when you look at, in terms of a Pan-African perspective, we're talking about in Africa, roundabout, and even in the Caribbean, I would say, and Dr. Vibe, you could probably co-sign on this. We're talking about really the late 50s, early 1960s. Once these countries started to gain their independence from Europe, that's when we start to see this whole explosion of culture, this explosion of storytellers and people who want to tell stories from their perspective. So, and it's funny because I was just watching some Ousmane Sembène the other day. And for those of you who don't know, Ousmane Sembène is the father, he's deemed the father of African film. He was from Senegal, and really one of the first more well-known filmmakers on the continent. So, in terms of the Pan-African movement, we're talking about the late 50s, early 1960s, in terms of seeing not just now images, but also stories that are being told from an African perspective. And when I say African, I'm including all Black people in that. So people of African descent.
This is true, and there is a rich historical perspective, but even that history, is basically been buried.
It's there if you choose to look for it, number one, which, sorry to say, the average person probably will not. It's there for a certain level. So again, where was I learning all this? Now, again, I came from a very conscious household, so I was going to read things anyway. I love to read. So that was not necessarily my problem. But if I was not one who wanted to learn on my own, these things I got in college classes, and they were not required college classes. They were classes that were electives. So the majority of people, you're right, they're buried in for the intelligentsia, quote unquote, and not for the they're buried for the masses and not the intelligentsia, and that's the problem. So you are right, in a sense. They're there, but they're buried for the masses.
That's a shame. That's a shame. But you, either out of passion or just wanting to know more, have access and have found out a little bit about this, have you not?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and the thing that makes it even easier is the fact that we have rampant internet now. When I was doing a lot of, yeah, to be honest, even when I did some research. I did a presentation at the at MLA, the Modern Languages Association, because they happened to be focusing on film that year that I went. And I did a thing on Usman Semben and hegemony. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the term hegemony, that's that institutional power or that power. And so how the films of Usman Semben transcended hegemony and transcended power. So even then, and that was not that long ago, that was just probably, I think that was like 2007 maybe. And I was still having to go to the library to get DVDs to see, thank God my university library had them. I was still having to find DVDs to show these films to go, to go to this conference. But now, I mean, I looked the other day, you can find Usman Semben films online in YouTube, for the most part for free. So, it's really, you really have a lot more access than you did before. The problem is if you don't know these things exist, they're not going to exist for you online either. So it comes with more education, with making, like, people like me making this information available, and then the average person having the willingness to learn. Because I can't teach you if you don't want to learn. And frankly, I'm not going to kill myself to do that. Life is too short. So,
absolutely. No doubt about it. So I just wanted to give some historical background for the conversation tonight. And then let's just open it up. When you hear, and you brought the topic up, exploring blackness in media, why did you want to bring this topic up? This conversation up? And let's start a conversation, and please, everyone, jump in wherever you want on this. So why did you want to share this conversation piece tonight?
So it came from, and you know that from listening to my show, that I am a Hamilton groupie. I have been stalking because I am wanting to get Hamilton tickets some way. So you know that the show Hamilton, it's the story of Alexander Hamilton, but told in hip hop, in prose, in rhyme, and the entire cast, except for King George, yes, are people of color. The entire cast are Black and brown people, Blacks and Latinos. So there was controversy recently, and I talked about it on Anchor actually, where there were white actors who had a problem with the fact, because the casting all said looking for not non-white, or I think they said either actors of color, or like all the speaking roles were actors of color. So of course some white actors got upset and, oh no, how dare we not be involved in things? Never mind, all of Broadway is dedicated to you. Never mind that. But we have the one show that Lin-Manuel Miranda, whom I actually adore, created this space for us. We, got tired and created this space for people of color, and that people had a problem with it. So there was some legal language and some legal technicality. So it's not that they backtracked; they just went back and added everybody is welcome to audition. But mind you, all the roles are still people of color. So I was looking at that, and it's not so much just a media thing, but just a thing of creating our own spaces. And that story annoyed me. I don't get annoyed really easily. It takes, a lot to annoy, but when I get annoyed, I get annoyed. And that really annoyed me, because that also translates to our presence in media and the roles that we get. And when you do try to do the opposition that sometimes exists in creating these spaces for media creators, for actors, for news people of color. So that's kind of what brought this around. So it's kind of indirectly related to media, but that's why I thought about it.
Okay, makes sense. I'm calling people out to join the convo, but you know what? I'll get you. I'll find a way. I'll find a way to get you out. So is this conversation piece about exploring blackness in media? There's so many different facets. So I'm just going to throw one up in the air in regards to the exposure of people behind the camera, which is something that you're familiar with because you're an independent filmmaker. What is the state of exploring blackness in media when it comes to behind the camera?
Brother Dr. Vibe, we have a long way to go. We still, here's the thing, and this is what we constantly do. And this is why I'm not a fan of begging people for opportunities to do things. So we all know about that whole quote unquote Oscar so white controversy. A lot of it dealt with in front of the camera, but there's a lot behind the camera as well. And what people don't realize is that a lot of the power exists behind the camera, behind the scenes. And the thing is, go ahead.
But doesn't the power exist period behind the camera?
Yeah, it is period behind the camera. But you know what? In a sense, sometimes it depends on who you are in front of the camera, because there are certain people that are going to be able to command and demand certain things more than other people will, simply because they're making money for whatever production company or entity they're working for. So they're going to be, their word is taken with a little more weight. But yes, you're right. For the most part, the power exists behind the camera. Drybus says loving behind the camera. Absolutely. That's where the magic happens. It happens in front of the camera too, but behind the camera is where that power and that magic happens. It comes together behind the camera.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't seem the situation's changed much.
No, it never changes much, because I think that, number one, I brought up Oscar So White because what happens is we get thrown a few bones. You have a few shows that are out there with a few directors of color. You get recognition at places like Sundance. They make a big deal out of your film. For example, Birth of a Nation, which is fantastic. They made that Birth of a Nation has the highest. They paid $17 million for that film. Fox Searchlight paid $17 million to acquire that film. That is the highest that has ever been at Sundance, ever. That's a big deal. And he's a Black filmmaker. But, that happens how often? And so we get satiated and we get comfortable once those things happen. And sometimes it seems like we stop trying to constantly make inroads, to get more people in there. We're like, we have a Black president. And so what does that mean? That doesn't mean that you still should not have other people of color that are at different levels within the administration or different levels in the cabinet that help move things along. There's a certain perspective that we have that is really helpful. And so audiences have shown overwhelmingly that they will patronize and watch shows, films, whatever, by people of color, by Black people. So the fact that they have to, we do need diversity in 2016 is rubbish, which is why I'm such a fan of platforms like this, of live streaming platforms, because it has the propensity to reach a lot of people. It's not at the state yet where traditional television is in terms of reaching people. It doesn't have the numbers, but it can have the numbers, and I believe it will have the numbers. We just have to be dedicated to it. We can't get bored and say, okay, I'm tired of the live streaming thing. If you're going to live stream, if you're going to do something, you need to take it seriously and do it as a show. Now, this is if you want to do it seriously. There's a space as well for people who just want to mess around, and that's okay. It's fun. It's a tool. But for people who are trying to use this seriously as a monetization tool and as a tool of expression and to get our stories heard and told and seen, then you have to be consistent. You have to have a good production quality. You have to do it like it is a show on USA or CNN or whatever the case may be. And I think that's where the piece comes in. We have to take it seriously and be consistent. And we can't just say we're tired of it, because you can't do that on network television, right? You can't do that on cable. You have a contract for X amount of years. And in a lot of cases, like, okay, Orange is the New Black for the next 4 years. No, actually, I think it's the next 7 they're locked in. So they're locked in for the next 7. So they can't just decide we're tired of it, we're not going to do this anymore. So that's the attitude we have to have as content producers, I believe. Other people may disagree, but that's what I think.
So if you feel that's what Blacks should aspire to behind the camera. What do you feel is holding them back?
There are a number of things that are holding people back. So you mean in terms of these new media platforms or in terms of media in general? Because
whatever way you want to approach the conversation piece, no problem, because I know whatever you have to share is added positive value. So the field is open, and I'm also encouraging people, jump in, add your valued opinion and comment, because if this subject doesn't get someone coming on, then I am concerned. But go ahead, Tachi.
Okay, so there are a number of things. Number one, I.A. Lewis said it, exposure. That's part of the thing. When you let's take it on a very basic level. Most people don't know when you're growing up, and never mind just growing up in inner city neighborhoods or whatever. When you're growing up, you don't know what it takes to become that person that you see on television. And you have no clue that behind the scenes is even involved when you're growing up. There are still some people. That's why in communication, we have this poster, and I think every communication professor has this poster from NCA. It says, what can you do with a communication degree? Because till today, people still don't know what communication is and what you can do with a communication degree. They don't realize that many of those people that you see in the media majored in communication in some way, shape, or form. And so there's a lack of exposure to those things. And there's also a lack of exposure sometimes to opportunities. However, I am not just blaming the entities. I blame us as well. So if the opportunities are out there, and I think I've told you this before, I go to an awful lot of conferences. I go to a lot of news media conferences, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, damn.
And so if I am at those conferences and I'm looking around and I don't see anybody that looks like me, which is mostly the case because they're overwhelmingly white and male, that's missed opportunity. And so it's like, well, people aren't exposed. Well, how did I find out? I found out because I made it my business. This is the thing. And it's not just about us. People in my department would ask, how did you find out about this fellowship? Or where did you, because I would pass on the information. I would do a fellowship and I would say, hey, you need to apply. How did I find out? Because I sit on Google and I put in communication media fellowships or things like that, media conferences, and I look. So the same Google that's available to me is the same Google available to everyone else. So it's twofold. It's us and it's the system.
Hear you on that. I'm trying to get someone to, oh no, I don't want that person there. No. Okay, there we go. And I.A. Lewis is saying people tend to go what they are exposed to. Agreed?
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's why you stay in the same place. That's exactly the hell why you don't move or progress. If you only stay and keep yourself exposed to what's available to you because it's easy or you think you can't, that's all you'll ever have. And at some point, you have to be tired enough of your condition to change your condition. Because guess what? The people that put you in the predicament you're in are not feeling responsible for getting you out of it. So it has to be on you. And then like whatever I can do, I will definitely try in terms of exposing people.
As an educator in this area, is there a lot of, how can I was going to look for support. Is there acknowledgement of this issue? And is there enough being done to educate, empower, enlighten in regards to this issue to people of color, in your opinion?
From a professorial standpoint, those of us that are, and keep in mind, there are Black people in the professoriate. There are Black professors. But what we need to do is look at these people that are Black professors. So for everybody that has a full-time college position, a full-time professorial position, there are tons of others who are just adjuncting and don't have those. So they don't have access to the resources sometimes to be able to do these things. They're not affecting students on an everyday basis and mentoring them like somebody who has a full-time position. And so there are not a lot of us who have those positions. Look at the universities and colleges across the country, this country, and look at what the professoriates look like. Look at what their faculties look like. They're overwhelmingly not diverse unless they are at an HBCU. In fact, HBCU faculties are more diverse than at PWIs because there tend to be professors from all different countries, etc. And so when you're looking at it from that sense, we try with the small number that we are. But it can't be a solo effort. So we try, but it's not something that is often the mission of the university. I was just blessed that I went to Howard, where Africanness and African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans are the mission. And so we're learning about African American communication. We're learning about Africa and the diaspora in film because that's part of the mission of Howard. But on the whole, you're not going to get that. That will be an elective, and the average person may not go and take that.
Okay, just a few things before you go on with the conversation. Monty, if you can you click yourself out and try to come back in? I've been trying to add you onto the conversation. I don't know, it may be a black issue, so try to get back in. IA Lewis is saying, is it regional?
Is it regional in terms of?
I guess the insight or the push by educators in this field to increase Blackness and awareness, etc.
I guess you could say in a sense it's regional, but that has to do with, okay, so let's look at it from this standpoint. You graduate from a PhD program and you try to apply for positions. Now, this is not everybody, but overwhelmingly, when you are Black, you want to be in a place where you feel comfortable. Let me talk about me. I was not going to apply for a position at the University of Iowa, the University of Idaho, North Dakota State. That was not me, and I was not going to do that. So again, yeah, it's going to be regional because we tend to be concentrated in certain metropolitan areas. And so someplace like Atlanta, and I know that Yolanda can attest to this, you're going to have a little more of that push to educate and the emphasis on that than you would someplace like, okay, a North Dakota, simply because the numbers and the presence is not there. So I guess you could say it's regional in that sense.
Okay, good stuff. Bear with me, people. For some reason, I'm trying to get some people who are trying to log in. I saw earlier on a blab where there was challenges trying to get people to join in the conversation. So I'm trying to find out what's going on. So bear with us. And I know you don't get tired of Tachi anyway, so she's on a roll tonight as it is. So so we've looked at behind the camera. Let's take a look at management of media media enterprises. Let's explore the lack of Blackness in that area.
Okay, so when we look at media, remember everyone, media is a business. So it's running using a corporate model. This is not something different from any other corporate entity that you would have. Media is a business. So when you look at I read industry magazines every day. I'm reading industry news every day, and every day they're talking about this person left this company, is now at this company. This person has gone from here. They're never Black. They are never Black. And when this is what we're talking about, you know, these not just chief operating officers and CEOs, but you're talking about like the vice president for entertainment development at one network, or they're never Black. So I lost my train of thought. Dr. Vibe, your question again. I'm sorry, I was too excited.
Okay. Now, before I get back to the question, I'm seeing that there are people trying to log in on my screen. They have two images in the same box trying to log in, so there must be an issue with Blab.
Oh.
So I'm gonna try to get IA Lewis in right now. No, see, it's not working. Yeah, because I'm going to actually what I'm going to do, Tachi, I'm going to make you the host.
And you're going to refresh yourself?
I'm refresh and see what happens, because I know there are some people that want to get in. Do you see yourself?
I'm a host.
You've been made a coach. So let me just
All right, guys. So as he's refreshing, hopefully we're able to do this, because I would love. Let's see. Hold on. All right.
Hey, Tats.
Hey. Okay, I got
Hey,
you
how's
in.
it going?
Yeah, there we go.
Good. How are you?
Okay, Monty, you can come in now if you want to. Okay, now we got to raise the bar.
Right, here we go. Here we
Alrighty.
go.
Okay.
The
Now,
fire is on.
hey, Doc, how you doing? Hey, Doc, how you doing?
I am blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles and a solution for someone's problem, and always better when people like yourself, brothers like yourself, and Spy Gadget join the conversation. So make it happen. Welcome, Leyland Sawyer. Here we go.
All right.
Boys, the gates are open. Go for it.
I had two questions. Is there a national association of black broadcasters or blacks in media or blacks in film production? And the second question is, if there is such an association, what is the association, or has the association done anything to inspire the youth to participate like other associations do? Because I think the problem that I'm hearing is a lack of exposure within our young people. You know, they know basketball, they know football, but they don't know media, and that's all. And I'm gonna go back in the box. Thanks for taking me.
Always
Absolutely.
a pleasure. Thank you. You can stay if you want, my brother. It's up to you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. You want to say? So I'll answer his questions. Yeah, and the answer is yes. So I know one, NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists, which covers all of journalism, and that includes broadcast journalism. So that would be your anchors, your reporters, etc. So absolutely. I'm trying to think. There are a bunch of different film ones. So there's no one big overarching, and ABJ I said would be a large one for black journalists. But there's no one big overarching that encompasses all of them. But there are different organizations for different factions of media. And what are they doing? A lot of times what I find they do, like I know NABJ has scholarships definitely to encourage young black journalists. Also, I think they have some sort of mentorship program. I'm not 100%, but I think that they do. And a lot of our organizations, so the organizations I belong to NCA, the National Communication Association, BEA, Broadcast Education, and we have caucuses in there and like divisions. So I belong to the Black Caucus for NCA and the multicultural for BEA. And within those, we try to do things not only to encourage ourselves, but also to get like next generation involved as well. But there could be larger efforts. And part of the things when you come with these organizations is funding and a lack of funding for those things. So I think what probably needs to happen is partnerships, if they're not already doing this, with larger entities. So for example, the Urban League has money and grant money to do these things. If they decided that getting blacks into media was something that they wanted to do, they could team up with an entity like NABJ and do things.
Okay, 1 second. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
okay,
you're echoing.
Okay, how's that?
That's fine. Monty, before you jump in, I want to make that point, though. If you're saying that an urban league, they've not made the attempt to further the cause of exploring blackness in media, that is a concern to me. Why they're not partnering with an NABJ, or maybe the NABJ has presented to organizations like that and they haven't followed through or didn't feel that it was in their interest. I don't know why, but that's a concern.
Well, and it is concerning. I think. Do you hear me echoing? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's me.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you either plug in your headset or turn on your speakers, please?
Okay, I think that's
okay.
Good. Okay. So
that's better.
So I think there's two things. Dryer Buzz talked about these being century-old associations, and that's part of the problem. They're century-old associations, and they think with a century-old mindset sometimes. And number two, we lean, in fairness to them, I don't know that they haven't done this, and we lean on those organizations for everything: civil rights, housing, etc., etc. So it becomes very difficult to lean on those same associations for everything. And again, simply because they're supposed to be charged with improving African American life, they cannot do everything. So I think there has to be some other way to do it, because I do understand that the NAACP, the Urban League, some of these other larger organizations have other things on their agenda, and when you keep putting them, but that does not preclude local chapters of these organizations from doing such. And a lot of the local branches of all these organizations, they may have something that looks at that. It may not be a national thing, but locally they may be trying to do those things.
Okay, Monty, I'm going to have you join in, but can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Monty, if you are not speaking, can you put your mic on mute because it's rubbing against something? Yeah, it's making a sound on your shirt. So,
okay.
Yeah, take it out or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
people
go ahead.
can hear it. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Much better.
Much better.
Oh, okay.
You're a veteran. You're a veteran. We shouldn't be telling you this. Come on now.
Exactly.
Come on.
Right. I've been getting away with it somehow. I don't know how, but
no problem. So what do you want to add in regards to this conversation tonight? And thanks everyone who has jumped in over the last few minutes. I want to shout out to Success with Tony. Want to shout out to at DBMTV, and also just joining in just a few moments ago, peak_a_boo.
Oh, peekaboo. Hey.
Oh, so Monty, it's your time.
yeah, I just want to make sure I understand exactly what some of the impediments are, because it seems like we have an opportunity to get our voices heard, and I want to make sure that I understand that, is it really that we don't have the opportunity, or is it that we're not taking advantage of the opportunity? Because it seems like the barrier to entry has come down significantly. That I understand that, like the record industry and the music industry and the traditional broadcast industries, if we want to go through those systems where you typically have to know someone, have a lot of capital, have the proper pedigree and all of that, then that's a different story. But it seems like nowadays we should be able to do forums even like this one, a blab, and I think you get you constantly put the content out there, and you promote it, and you get the following organically, right? I mean, am I missing something? Is there something wrong with that model?
Tachi, can I jump in first?
Absolutely.
Tachi, I want to give you a little bit of a rest because you've been on fire tonight.
Don't let it cool off. Okay,
I know. No. I'm riding Tachi's wave.
Okay,
I'm riding.
There you go.
Riding her purple wave. Let me get that correct.
Right.
I think, and people may get mad at me on this, but I don't think for a lot of us it hurts enough.
It hurts enough
because I don't think a lot of us may think here that this is an issue, but it hasn't got down here. Because I think when it gets to an emotional thing, we see it in pockets. But the thing is, it's not sustained. It's not continuous. And I think that, like you said, Monty, the barriers to entry are so low right now. Why aren't more people, and there's enough people here that are committing, they're committing to legacy. Maybe that's what it is. There isn't not a big enough commitment to legacy, because there's not a better time than right now for Blacks to control their narrative. So maybe it isn't hurting enough. We're not serious. Blacks are not serious enough about controlling their narrative and making, as I say, a U-turn.
Well, what about this? Maybe also we don't believe in ourselves enough.
That's a whole other conversation. I piggyback on that. That's part of what I was saying when I meant that we don't believe in ourselves. The heart.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
I'll leave it at that for right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have Chetachi jump back in, but
okay.
I just wanted to put it in there because I'll just use myself as an example. I don't live in America.
Oh yeah, right. And to be honest with you, every time I see you, I'm thinking you're right across the street from me in America because you're speaking the language and you're reflecting everything that we're going through. But you crossed that barrier. You took it to the next level. And I can't, I can't figure out why so many of our people are talking about, I need to get my word out. I want to expose my business. I want to talk about my agenda and promote it. But it's like, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't want to chat about myself too much, but 70 to 75%, 70 to 75% of my audience is from your country.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm passionate about this and I care. So one of the things I always say is conversations lead to conversions. So we need to converse more and more on platforms like this that it's allowing us. That it may not be around forever. So we got to take advantage while the opportunity is there.
That's key. That's key.
Time never lost a fight. Right? I'm going to stop there because Charita has come on in. I've never seen her, so welcome to the... I don't even call it the Dr. Vibe show. I call it the Dr. Vibe conversation. Thank you for taking time. Come on in.
Hey, thank you. Listen, I chimed in on this conversation and I've been hooked ever since because this is so in my zone. You all tapped on a number of things that really I can totally relate to, starting with Tachi talking about, that poster that says, what can you do with a communications degree? It's like, what can't you do with a communications degree, right?
Right.
I work in a local university. I'm in administration, but I was talking to a young girl who is majoring in professional writing. And so she says, I'm sort of interested in personal relationships. I said, oh, well, that's perfect. She said, well, I sort of want to, do some writing and do corporate communication. I was like, oh, that's perfect. She said, so because every organization, I don't care what you do, you need communication. Okay, so I totally got that, Taji. But I wanted to touch on a couple of things here. Dr. Vibe started talking about comfort zones and doubts and insecurities. I think that was you, and that's in my zone. I am the exit strategist, and I deal with people who have, issues with comfort zones and being comfortable with themselves and the things that they tell themselves that they're not good enough and all this internal stuff that they go in their head. So I totally relate to that. But I want to talk about also about the barriers to entry being so low. And your topic here is exploring blackness in the media, and the barriers to entry is so low. And so I guess you're saying that's perfect opportunity just to jump in. Does that mean that the bar has to be lowered for us?
I don't think so. I don't know if we can get any lower. It's free.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, so I guess what I was hearing when you say the barrier to entry is so low is that we didn't have an opportunity to get it when it was a little bit higher, that what we had to say and what we had to contribute might not have been considered good enough. I'm hoping that's not what you're saying, but that's what I was hearing. So that's
no. I'm definitely not that. I'm saying that the barriers are lower, making it easier to control your narrative.
Okay, got you. I'm so loving that. Yeah. Okay, that was my bad. I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. What are you saying here?
No, we don't need to. We don't need to lower the standards. I mean, we got people with some very high. The standards of the things that we have to talk about, the things that we have to bring to the table are rather significant. We have some brothers on here who bring it. Quite often, and they're very good. They got good backgrounds, educational. They got the pedigrees and everything going. But overall, we need, those are the exceptions. What I want to see is more people step up and say, "Look, I can contribute. If it's legal, if it's a legal profession, if it's entertainment, if it's sports, whatever.
Okay.
Right? Let's go out there and put the expert hat on and make yourself an expert and just go for it.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just want to say finally that, and I'm glad you clarified that, because I think that these platforms, Blab, Periscope, Facebook Lives. I mean, it's almost as if it was made just for us to enter into the realm of media, okay? Because we are seeing so much talent, so much wisdom, so much people, so many gifts that people are beginning to share. And so I've never seen any opportunities like this before that are so vast and so wide, giving us this chance to bring forth our own platforms and bring people along with us.
Very good point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tashi, I know you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yes. So several things came into my head at this point. You're absolutely right. And this is why I think not just Black people, but people of color in general need to start to leverage these platforms more. But here's the key difference between these platforms and traditional media. Number one is distribution. Look at how many people you have on a regular basis watching streams. For the highest, you might get 1,000 people. That does not compare to the millions sometimes that you have watching a network or cable program, okay? So there's a difference in terms of the exposure and in terms of the numbers. Number two is a funding thing. So another thing that can make people, tired is after a while, you're putting all this energy and effort into it, and it's definitely worth it, but you're not seeing a return on investment on that. And you're not going to for a while. But I think people sometimes get discouraged because they're not seeing that, such and such YouTube star has this and such, Periscope star has this. Why can't I do it? And I think it's been posited as a lickety-split solution to this, and it's not. You have to do the same thing and do your same due diligence. Number three, simply because you have a phone and can get on and live stream does not make you an expert and that you know how to do it. I can't tell you how many times I actually, not only am I a media professor, but since the beginning, I've been teaching public speaking and presentation making. So I am very keenly aware as to what's good and what's not. I'm also a filmmaker. So I know lighting, I know cameras, I know lenses. So I'm sitting here watching some of these productions and I'm like, this person needs help. And I'm not saying it to be critical. I'm saying it as a critique because if we want to be taken seriously on these platforms, everything we do, and like I said, there's room in the space for just the random scope or the random stream. But everything we do can't be on board, come talk to me. Everything we do can't be from a dark room and a shaky phone and hey y'all, it cannot be that. We have to start to take it seriously. So the barriers to entry are low, but we have not educated ourselves on how to do this properly. And I really sometimes take offense to people who, because I'm also a journalist. Not everybody is a journalist. Simply because you have a blog and write something down does not make you a journalist. There's a code of ethics and there are things that you have to do. So you have to do the work to do it properly. So this is, the barriers to entry are low, but educate yourself on doing it properly. And I think that's another thing. It takes time.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
You may.
Because
be careful. Be careful. You're dealing with Tachi. Be careful.
Well, look. And when you reach my age, you stop worrying so much about saying something wrong. It's like, come on, after 20 years and after so much attraction in the business and the industry, you get the impression that you know what you're doing. But I could be wrong. But look. What about this? I mean, you gave a lot of have-tos, and I admired that very much, mainly because if I throw out enough have-tos, guess what's going to happen? Most of the people are going to say, you know what? There's way too many have-tos. I got to do this, and I got to be that, and I got to know this, and I got to learn that really quickly, right? Otherwise, why even bother, right? But see, once upon a time, a lot of us, we started where we were. we didn't have that much to work with. We kind of learned the trade, we kind of established ourselves with what we had. And if the budget was $10 and a cheap microphone or some rinky-dink camera we got from Fry's Electronics, that's where we started. But after so many years of being in this thing, you may get the impression that, look, you learn. You know, you can learn, you can figure out where you're strong and where you're not, right? So
you absolutely can.
Yeah,
it's
so I'm
trial and
wondering,
error.
right? So I'm wondering whether or not there's a certain guide that we all must follow, or whether or not we can just say, look, this is, I feel like I contribute in this particular area, and I'm going to learn. Because see, once upon a time in my own situation, I didn't even know what I was going to become. I mean, where I am now is something that I didn't foresee, but certain people believed in me, right? They said, look, you sound jittery. You're not quite sure. You don't have all the answers. I can work with that, Monty. Don't worry about it. But look, this is what's going to happen. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna give you the orders, give you the business, follow you, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what? 20 years later, now all of a sudden, you know, I have to wear this expert hat because people are calling me an expert, right? I'm like, okay, now I gotta wear this hat now, you know. So I want to make sure that we don't discourage the people who are looking at this and saying, you know what if I just bring my rawness? What if I just bring this out of left field type of character or whatever it is that I feel like is a natural part of me as compared to faking it? Because I don't want to give the people the impression like someone told me, they almost told me to be something other than you were, right? And I'm like, okay, I tried that for a split second and it didn't work out. You know? So
but that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not saying don't be you. I'm not saying don't be wrong. Look at all the people that we have out. A good example, the Power 105.1 morning show. Charlemagne and them are raw as hell, but they're them. But they do things. So there's a difference. These things are not mutually exclusive. You can still be you and do things, but I think you ought to respect the platforms and respect your audience enough to want to do things the right way. That doesn't mean you don't have trial and error. That doesn't mean you don't, experiment.
Well, when you say the right way, when you say the right way, I want to make sure I understand that.
But there is no one right way. What I'm saying, I'm not saying there's one right way to do that. No, but there is a right way when it comes to production. That I will not bow on. When it comes to doing things, there's a right way when it comes to production. But in terms of your personal style and the information you bring, there is no one right way. It's whatever. The right way is whatever gets your audience to you. That's the right way. And so the whole thing is, I think that while you want to encourage, this is probably me as a professor as well. I love my students, but I don't coddle them. You're going to do and I refuse to coddle, because when you coddle, that's when they don't grow. They don't grow. So I believe in giving a chance, but once you get that chance, be for damn sure you're going to get in here and work it. So
on that note, I'm gonna Gadget, I'm gonna let you go because someone wants to come on, but I may get you back in later. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Monty.
Yeah.
All right, now the Len 2X, the Len 2 TX wants to get in, so I've cleared up the seat for you. And as I told you, don't contest with Tachi. Be careful.
No, people get to contest with me. I won't jump on you, but they do call me. My friends do call me the Nigerian Mafia. So
watch out now.
Nigerian Mafia. Hey, Robert, what is up?
Good evening, all. How are you guys doing today?
Hi, Robert.
Blessed and highly favored. How you doing?
Great show, Doc, as usual.
Conversation, man. We do our conversation, man. What? All right, what's up?
Question for Tachi.
Yes, sir.
I'm new to the space, trying to learn, stand on the sidelines so that I can treat the platforms correctly, right? So someone that, like myself, that doesn't have a communications background, loves to talk, think I have a gift of gab, but want to get better. Couple of things. Number one, how long should someone stick with a show? Because you alluded to it earlier. It's going to take some time, but just for somebody like me that doesn't know, can you give me a little time frame of how long I should stick with it before I kind of see some traction on what I'm doing?
Can I get Dr. Vibe to talk about that first?
Okay.
Go ahead.
You may click out when I give you this answer, Robert. I've been doing my show for 9 years.
That's too long, Doc.
All right. So my question to you is, how bad and how committed are you to get to where you want to be?
I was a joke, sir. I'm committed. So that's why I'm
Okay.
here tonight.
Okay, because that's what I'm saying. I'm going to date myself a little bit here, folks, but the first conversation I did was at my dining room table about Michael Vick and the dogs.
Okay.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Early 2000s.
Right. So I did not go into this. My main goal, my core message when I first started was to provide a platform for Black Canadian men and those who love them. Look where I came from. Look where, and I'm not boasting, just saying, look what's gone on since then. So I'm saying that how long you should go on for is how long you are passionate about it. I'm as excited now doing this than I was from that first broadcast. First of all, technology has made it where I can reach out to more and more people. And technology has allowed it that I can have more people tell their stories, and getting back to sort of the theme, exploring blackness through online media has become even easier.
Gotcha.
So if it just depends what you're passionate. If you're in this to make money, click out right now. I'm telling you, click out right now.
You think about it?
You don't. Yeah, right.
You can't make any money, Doc.
Right. You can make money, but most people think it's easy.
What?
And that's again where Tasha came back, brought it up that you got to be in it for the long haul.
Gotcha.
Right? You got to make it. I'll give you a very interesting stat. 8% of podcasters make any sort of money from podcasting. Only 8%.
Okay. Well,
right?
It's good to know.
So this is a thing that you've got to be. Oh man, I'm just telling the facts. I'm telling the truth, right? Because I know that success, what Tony said earlier on about equipping, and I'm giving you the facts. I know that for a fact. So what I'm saying is, how long you should do it is how long you are committed to do it.
That's right. And I'm going to speak to that if you don't mind. I've only
go ahead.
I've done a few blabs. I by no means am I the podcasting expert, and I have not yet acquired a viewing audience. And it's very, very, very slow to go. But I'm pretty committed. My company is Renew, Refresh, Reset Your Life, and so that's what my blabs are. Blabs are about people who are reinventing themselves, who are saying for whatever reason, this is not working for me. This is not where I thought I would be at this point. What they've decided to do, how they're going to approach it, and then later on, how far they've gotten since they made that decision. So although I haven't really developed an audience yet, a following, should I say, I haven't developed a following yet. There are times, even while I'm doing a blab, that I feel like quitting, but I'm committed. I'm just not stopping because I haven't been doing it that long. Maybe 3 months. Maybe 3 months, but 3 months is not a long time to me to get anything really off the ground, especially a platform like this. Now, I was doing Periscope prior to this, and I may go back because I've got a book coming out that will help me to, kind of put my subjects intact. But this worked much better for me because I found that the Periscopes were a one-way conversation, and I really need that dialogue. Yeah.
Well, and I think the comment that Dreyer Buzz made, beautiful. 20 years in, you keep going as long as there's stories to tell.
You keep doing it. You just keep doing it. Particularly if you're committed and if you really believe in what you're doing, and that for me, I think that this topic of renew, refresh, or resetting your life, and my motto is every day presents another opportunity for you to hit the reset button on your life. That's an extremely important message to me. In my life, and I know in others' life, because I know that there are, hundreds of thousands, and not millions of people who had been like me, and something was absolutely missing. So I think my message is very important. And going back to the barriers to entry, although the barriers are low, we can get in here, what was his? I can't remember his name that just left out of here. He said you just start from where you are. Yeah, you start where you are, but you continually try to raise that bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to try to raise that bar, and you raise that bar by watching Dr. Vibe and listening to Tachi and listening to these blab broadcasts telling you how to successfully do a blab and getting all this free information that you can. Now, the information can be overwhelming, and as an introvert, information overload gets to be a problem. Okay, it gets to be a problem for me. So I have to cut back on it sometimes because people are doling out so much great information that it will cause me to try to, get off track of what I'm doing. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna do that. That sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna do that. But how can I take this information and work it into what I'm already trying to do, getting the good information that I can use, and either kicking the other information to the side or planning to incorporate it later in the future. But
Absolutely.
keep going and keep raising the bar if you believe and if you're committed.
I'll let Tachi go in, and I'm gonna come back in. But Tachi, what do you have to add?
Basically, you all really said it. You keep going until there are always conversations. As long as you're passionate and there are conversations and there's work to be done, you keep going with it. And as Dr. Vibe said, money cannot be the motivating factor. Now, mind you, money is very important. Nobody is saying do this for free forever.
Right.
That would be absolute rubbish if you did. However, so I've been doing now Mediascope since the end of July. And so that's not a very long time. But for me, I'm loving it. I didn't give a damn at the beginning. I said, if there's one person, guess what? You're going to sit there and listen. If it's 0 people, I'm going to keep going because the replay will catch it. And what happens is it grows and grows and grows to the point that you have X amount of people rocking with you every week or however often you do it because they know you. So it's about developing that craft. And you know what? That whole process of going through it and continuing to do your show come hell or high water, that's the thing. Everybody knows don't bother me on Wednesday because that's Mediascope Day. So come hell or high water, save for Jesus coming back, I'm doing Mediascope. Okay, so that's the only thing that would disrupt Mediascope. So continue.
That's the only thing that the Nigerian mafia can only be stopped.
The Nigerian mafia can only be stopped by Jesus. That's it.
What I'm going to also say, and if you've been on any of my conversations, I always bring it up. Relationships are the key.
Yeah.
Relationships are the key. Exploring Blackness in Media means maintaining, nurturing, and growing epic relationships. Not good relationships, not great relationships, epic relationships. That is the key to me of everything, because people are only going to work with who they like. If they don't like you, they ain't coming on. Perfect example. A lot of people say you schedule a blab 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of time. I wish I could always do that. I didn't put this blab up until about 2 hours before it came on. And because of the relationships that I've garnered with people who are on blab, within 10 minutes, 7 people said, we're going to subscribe. Whether they come on or not, hey, life happens. Could happen in 2 hours. But they push the button saying, okay, we like what Dr. Vibe does, and his guests and his friends come on. They click that button. Relationships. So when we want to talk about exploring and controlling our narrative, we've got to control, explore, and grow our epic relationships with each other.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. What is it? May I ask what are you doing in terms of your podcast? What is your podcast about?
It was supposed to be about. I'm in the mortgage business, so it started off that way in my mind, but I'm like, that's not sexy. Nobody wants to hear about that. But as a result of me listening, I found that a more universal problem is credit and people having issues there. So we're doing a podcast. I teamed up to talk about relationships. Dr. Vibe teamed up with another labber out of Arizona. So we're doing something weekly. But I just, I'm trying to encourage myself. I'm not as eloquent as you guys are. Not a professor.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not coordinating. You know what I mean? So
you've already told us everything that you aren't. You've already told us everything that you aren't, but there's so much that you are. There's so much that you absolutely are.
Robert,
Yes,
let me share this with you. First of all, don't worry about what you don't have, because what you have is good enough.
Absolutely.
thank you, sir.
And I'm going to raise my hand here because so Robert has already made a connection here, because I've been a licensed real estate agent in the state of Alabama since 2006, and I still actively practice. So there's a podcast that you and I can do together.
Okay.
You see this?
And there's also, and I'll throw this gentleman's name out because I know he wouldn't mind. There's a gentleman named who's watching this, Ahmed Hazel.
Yeah.
He is very much involved in this field. So the worst you can do is reach out to him and say, hey, can you just give me some knowledge, some education, all that? It's all about relations, folks. A lot of times people will come on my platform. I'm not the expert. They're the expert.
And yesterday, my guest on my blab was a real estate investor. So not only have you met me, you've met one of my guests too by default.
Well,
And Ahmed, I'm encouraging. So
out.
Ahmed, you may want to get on Charita, because Ahmed does real estate stuff at a high level. So there's something there. So, as you know, people say, "Oh, this is not." We are exploring blackness in media. We're exploring how we can make, or blacks can make, a better presence,
Absolutely.
Controlling their narrative presence in the media space. And look, people getting involved in this media space. I'll tell you, the first video I did, it was about 3-4 years ago. There's an organization based in the United States called the Society of National Black Engineers, or National Society of NSB.
I used to be a member.
So they had their first international conference in Toronto a few years ago. So myself and a co-host I had at the time, I was getting ready to interview the president of the organization. She is from the Ohio State University. She made sure I said the
Ohio State.
So there I was with my microphone, audio-wise, and my co-host at the time said, "Where's your video camera?" I said, "It's right in my pocket." "Give it to me." Bam. That was my first video conversation.
Wow.
So sometimes people just have to realize you got to jump off a cliff and grow your wings on the way down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't have to wait for anything. Exactly what was being said before. You want to do things properly, and you get to that point. Nobody says you start off at the highest level. You build to that level. So you should get on, but then you should strive to be better. And so I think that's all you have to realize. And don't worry about all this coordination. Only I can coordinate my lipstick with myself. So don't worry about all this.
Y'all won't have the lipstick on, but I feel you. Thanks, Professor.
And you have to get out of your own head too, because you'll kill your own dream. What if people don't? What if I can't? And Dr. Vibe, I think Dr. Vibe brought up not making money, and Taji talked about it a little bit too. But people make money through podcasts like this. Maybe not directly, by that podcast, but what you do is you create opportunity. Okay, so I remember when I started my real estate company in 2007. I don't have it anymore. I was doing property management, which I didn't like. Okay, but I remember the lady I decided to do my website. I asked her to send me a resume or a CV of her work. She says, "Well, the internet is my resume." So while you may not be able to make money directly, okay, this can be your blab can be your platform to other opportunities. Well, what do you do? Well, why don't you take a listen to this podcast, okay? Or here's a link to my website or my video, or telling what I do and how I do it. It may open up opportunities for speaking engagement. You're a mortgage person. You want to be in everybody's real estate office. You want to connect yourself with any investor. There are investor groups wherever you live. There's got to be a long list of places that might want to have you speak where they are. You are the mortgage expert. And if people are going to be doing anything within real estate, they're going to want to talk to you, and you do have something to say. And this is the platform that you can use to say, here, I can show you better. I can show you better than I can tell you. And this is where you show it.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll just add to that in regards to the opportunities that have sprung from and I don't like to chat that much about what I do, but I'm doing it to try to inspire you, Robert. So one of the things I really share with people is that if you want to make a footprint, especially in today's world, you either have to have credibility or profitability.
Mm-hmm.
It's great if you don't, it's not the end of the world if you don't have either. It's great if you have one. It's outstanding when you have both.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relate. I started with none of them, but I had a dream. Or as one of my mentors would say, and I think a lot of us can relate, it started with a dream and a laptop. That's what one of my mentors tells. It starts, a lot of people out there, it started with a dream and a laptop. And basically has grown there where I spoke it and I had a vision board to say I want to do X number of presentations this year. And through mentorship, right thought process, being persistent and consistent. And a lot of us, people of color, have to realize something that back in the day, it was what people knew about you. Now it's what people know about you online. Right? They're not going to, a lot of times, they're not going to check your face. They're going to go online and say, what is Robert E. about? And I'm speaking to all of us here, not just me, not just you, Rob. What do they know about online? What has he got going on? Does he have a website? Has the website been updated in the last month? Right? Because if you're not investing if we're not investing online in ourselves, why is that person going to take it any further?
Gotcha.
Because they say they're not doing that. So I'm saying when we explore our blackness, I'm getting back to this whole area of controlling our narrative. Control your narrative. Individually, control your narrative.
Right. You control all that. People want to find you. You have to. What you put out on the internet is little breadcrumbs, and you put out there what you want them to know. So we all, with Facebook. I could say the transition now. Facebook. When I first got on Facebook, after the kids kind of got off. It was, I don't want to, I don't care what people had for coffee this morning, or I don't want to see the fight at McDonald's. And so eventually those feeds don't even come across me anymore. And so everything in my feeds on Facebook and Twitter is all about that positive energy that people feed off of one another. Everybody I'm associated with, they're on the road to somewhere very intentionally. Okay, and having that circle and being involved. So this is my new circle. I've got another new circle right here. Okay, to feed off of, to learn from, to help me grow and develop. And you stay plugged in to people just like that. Okay, and if you feel like you're getting unmotivated, then you just plug right back in. Okay, and the chances are that you're not, when you're feeling unmotivated, is because you unplugged somewhere along the line. You've unplugged, but you got to get plugged back in. The minute you recognize that you become sort of unmotivated or stagnant.
I know Chetachi wants to answer a question from the side chat room, and I'm just going to piggyback on what Trita said. That you're going?
I didn't want to hog up all the time.
The way I run my conversations, if someone wants to jump in, they'll tell me.
Okay.
I'm not a psychologist, right? I'm an outsider. Yeah. So the only thing I'll do before Chetachi gets to answering a question is that if you get bored, that means your dream isn't big enough. Chetachi, go ahead. Someone wanted you to answer a question.
So you want me to answer after you drop that bomb? Okay. So
you drop the mic.
Exactly. And that is I have to pick up the mic. So somebody, where's the quote? Oh, okay. So the whole thing is that technology has leveled the playing field, and that's the buzz phrase, that technology is that great equalizer. Well, if that were true, then we wouldn't have diversity problems, would we?
No.
So it's true to some extent. To some extent, it does. But to the other, and this is what I was tell my students, they talk about technology this, social media that, and I say, you have to remember that you are part of almost this talented 10th. Not everybody is in your shoes. So what we're all doing here now, not everybody has the opportunity to do that. There are some people who, I don't want to say just don't have access to the technology, but don't have access to the time to do this because they're working 2 and 3 jobs. So they don't have the luxury of coming on and starting a blab or starting a podcast because they have to work. So we're looking at this from a very quote unquote first world perspective, hashtag first world problems, or I don't like that, developed world problems. We're looking at this from this perspective, sometimes forgetting that there are those that don't have this type of access. And it's not necessarily just access to technology. There's an awful lot you could do with your mobile phone, but access to the time to be able to do it because they simply have to work, or they simply have to raise their children. So not everybody, this is a luxury for some people, and we have to remember that. So that's what I mean, that to some extent, it's an equalizer.
Nice. I see that there's some Dryer Buzz is serious. She is serious. She's just laying down. You think I'm dropping knowledge? She's dropping knowledge bombs, not just like saying Facebook is a remix of black tech that was abandoned because we didn't invest in it. And I think that's been a reoccurring theme with her. She's saying the whole area of funding each other or funding good projects seems to be missing when it comes to media.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think there's also this overwhelm, and you see this in this K through 12 realm. Anybody here who's an educator or who has been knows this whole push for STEM. Okay, that's all you hear. And you forget about all of the other. So the technology piece of it is very important, okay? The science, the math is very important. But we forget all these other things, these creative fields and whatever that add to that. You need the complete package. So I think there's this overemphasis on certain areas and not on others. And media is one area that is underemphasized. How stupid is that? Because everything is media. Everything, a lot of money exists in the media realm. Yes, exactly. And so, so look at this. Companies that before did not have a media component now do this. Marriott produces a show. Marriott produces an in-house program that is available to the guests to watch, and it is a narrative. So that means they're employing somebody to write the script. That means they're shooting. The media is involved everywhere. So it's stupid, and I'll say it, stupid that there's not enough emphasis on it because everybody is using it, and there is money to be made in it.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
And I appreciate everybody's encouragement. I never said I was going to quit. I just asked how long should you yeah. So I come from the bottom. I'm not a quitter. Never have. So just to your point, Professor Tachi, just as I'm leaving, realtors, right? I've now just with the understanding of this platform, and just to kind of poke at you, Doc, I've already monetized it because just took Facebook Live, showed them how to do open houses and things of that nature. Long story short, they know they need it, but they don't know how to broadcast it, right? So what I'm trying to do, what I'm doing, is pivoting because my mortgage business is doing pretty well. I'm tired of doing that. I want to be like you, Doc, one day. So that's why I kind of hopped on. I appreciate it.
I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be the best you.
There you go. And that's what I mean. Because I don't want to be like you either. I'm pretty cool. So I want to be the best me that I could be and use the technology because it's powerful. I see it. And I agree with you, Professor. It's, we're pioneers in this, people that are here. Because there's a ton of folks that a lot of people don't even know about Blab and things of that nature. So I see the potential and I just want to get better. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And Robert, if I could speak, it's interesting that you said that because I've recently been asked to do a whole bunch of media related and social media related things. So I actually last Monday did a training for a group of realtors on incorporating live streaming within realty. So I talked about Periscope, I talked about Facebook Live, all the changes that are coming to both. I talked about YouTube Connect, which is the thing that's coming up next to compete with those other two. I talked about 360 video and getting a 360 camera and getting things in virtual reality. How awesome would that be if you had a house that you used a 360 camera for, gave them a Google Cardboard and said, oh, you want to see this house? Go ahead. You turn and you see the back staircase. You turn. Absolutely. Yeah. This is something that is doable and easy to do. So I did a whole training with them, and I'm going back to them in 2 weeks, and they're going to show me what they have done because I gave them assignments.
They pay well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'll leave you this, Robert. One of my many mentors told me, find the need and fill it. Don't find the need and kill it.
There you go. Man, Doc, let me get off of here. Y'all have a good day. Killing my vibe, man. Professor, we trying to make a little money. No, I'm just kidding.
But dude, let's connect, Robert. Let's connect in some way. I'd like to do a blog with you.
And I just followed you. So when I hit you on the DM, don't act like you don't know me.
I know you. I got that face.
Y'all have a good one. Good night.
All right,
take care, Robert.
All right. I hope we're still keeping somewhat on topic, as people will realize I put part 1 now. So, because I feel there's so much more that needs to be discussed. But there's a point here brought up by Success with Tony saying, I may start a fire, but do you think many of us care more about entertainment and not enough about applying education? Example, scrolling Facebook for an hour instead of spending time on Blab to learn a new skill. And I think the person who's asking that question is actually coming on right now. Hey, what is up, Fitz? What is happening, my man?
Hey,
good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming.
That pleasure's mine. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. I'm glad I stopped in.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
What's your take?
You know, I think Tachi mentioned about you know, the skill sets needed, and I kind of got the impression at first, since she is a professor, that, you know, people like myself who are new to this, we're sometimes intimidated, because if you have people who are well versed in what you're doing, and like me, I came on learning Lab and some of these technologies, and then when you see a professional like yourselves, you're sometimes intimidated, and many of us, you know, we don't take the time to learn the skill sets, and if we don't get the encouragement, that's just you know, and I have been on blabs like that where you don't get the encouragement, but this is an encouraging blab, I will say.
Well, I'm gonna jump in first. A few things. We all started where you were.
Yeah. So
remember that. Second of all, that if someone is not providing you encouragement, you know what you do?
Well, yeah.
No, I'm being very serious. I'm being very serious. Are you telling me you want to hang around with someone that doesn't provide you encouragement?
Well, see, for me, it's different. I'm a pastor, so I'm used to it. But I'm talking about for these that I'm trying to train.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I don't care if you're a pastor, and I respect that you're a pastor.
Yeah.
I don't think pastors want to hang around unless they have to. And I know it's a godly thing. If you have a choice and you can say, you know what, this person isn't encouraging me, I say,
oh yeah, I'm easy to do that. I mean, I don't have any problem with that at all. But my point is if somebody that does not have the same type of motivation, somebody that's easily discouraged, if they come on, you know, because I've been trying to get people to come on to Blab and to learn some of the skill sets needed to develop a show. I have a lot of people within our church who have a lot of talent, but they don't have a lot of motivation. They have they're very intimidated by a platform like this, and then to come on a platform and see professionals that kind of,
we're not professionals, so we've just you know what it is, Pastor Tony, we've screwed up more than they have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, they need to get out of their own way. And I'm going to put it open out right here. If you want me to help you with that, I'm available.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we all would say, because I'm definitely available. Whatever anybody needs, I'm putting myself out there for that. I think because here's the thing. So you can appreciate this because you're a pastor. So I went to Howard University, and one time at the chapel, Bishop Vashti McKenzie came to preach, and she gave this sermon about the mountaintop. And she said there'll be those who ask you why you want to go to the mountaintop, or why do we have to go this far? And she said you can't take everybody to the mountaintop with you. So once you put the information out there for the people to, and I understand about encouraging, I definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
Some people need some more encouragement.
Right.
However, there are those that are going to want to do it just because they don't have the motivation. You cannot want it more for them than they want it for themselves.
Exactly.
So once you put the information out there and they don't take it, you have to get to the mountaintop on your own and take those people who want to do. Now, it may sound cruel, and it probably does, but remember, I don't coddle. So once I put the information out there, and I do try to encourage, but if this is a constant thing, when you're ready, you'll follow me to the mountaintop.
That's right.
Some people are just not ready.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
And the thing is, they're really not ready if they don't like myself or Tachi. So they're really not ready if they don't like me.
They're not ready for the truth, okay?
I'm just joking. No, you know what? But the thing is, you have to deal with people where they are. And some people are just not ready, and that's fine. But it's interesting that when people see other people moving ahead and it's something that they want, they find a way.
Right. And then the other thing is, you can't, people can't start looking at other people and doing what they're doing and perceive them to be a success, okay? Because they may not be even in the same realm as you are, or y'all might have different audiences, or they're on a different level. Their education level may be higher, their experience may be higher. One person may be brand new in this business, and another person may have been doing it 10 or 15 years in some regard. So yes, they're probably going to be a little bit more successful, and it's like comedians or actors, they talk about being overnight successes. Not. No. They've been struggling in Hollywood and New York for 20 years trying to get that big break. Nothing is sudden. And so is life. And this is no different. We talked about earlier, this being a prime platform to do anything that you want to do that has to do with getting out a message, okay, that reaches the people that need to hear it, because it has to be about the people who need to hear it. Okay, none of this is really about us. Okay, it has the message you deliver has to be of benefit to somebody. Okay, and I think that's probably one of the first things that you probably have to consider. How can people benefit from what I have to say? If they can benefit, they will eventually come. Now, this group, whether this group is at your church or not, I'm assuming that they're at their church. Somebody's brought it up, so the interest might be there. How many people are there? Can you get all these people together? Can you talk about it? Can you start a workshop? Can you start a seminar? Maybe they'll work better with groups. That will be their support group. That will be their motivation. That will be the person to keep them going. And perhaps you've already tried something like that. But you can and I'm much like Tachi. I'm not much of a coddler. I'm not real coddling. Okay. I wasn't gonna put that out there. But I'm kind of a straight shooter. I say what I have to say. I'll say it once, I'll say it twice, but after 3 times, I'm not really kind of gonna keep pushing it on you. I'll put it out there for you to receive it. It's there. If you're not getting it then, I'm still gonna be here when you need it. Okay, and try to leave the door open so that you can come to me and ask for the kind of help that you need.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is, Sharita, I'm going to let you go because someone wants to come in.
All right.
But I thank you so much for adding positive value to the conversation. And I look to have you again. We are going to be doing a part 2 of this. But in between, catch what the Dr. Vibe show does and what all these people are doing on here. And it's appreciated and not taken for granted. So have a great evening.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye,
have a good evening.
Sharita.
Bye-bye.
Just to add here, IA Lewis is in like a flash. Whoa, okay. And I agree with one of the things you just said about people have to be ready. And ask of Mr. Fitz, ask a pro TV comparing your day 5 to their day 100, their 500. Yeah, people got to realize there's going to be a different parts of the journey. You got to be ready to just get started. Like a lot of people say to Dr. Vibe, how did you get all these followers? Then I said, I just started. Don't make a compliment. You just start. IA Lewis, I'm trying to get you in, and for some reason, it's not allowing me in. I'll try again. But yeah, and again, IA Lewis said something good. Some people have the boot camp. Some are on the battlefield. Go ahead.
Dr. Vibe, I was going to say, try refreshing, because I was able to let people in before when you were refreshing.
Okay, I'll do a refresh and just agree. Fritz says again, one follower at a time. Absolutely. And Galen Bingham, welcome. Hold on just a second. I'm going to refresh and see what happens.
Absolutely. So have you tried Reverend Dr. Davis?
Tony, that's fine.
Okay, have you tried to do workshops or bring people in to do workshops to kind of bring people up to speed with media